Morning world, it's about 10 to 8 in the morning on the 4th of September 2018. So, big thank you to those people who complimented me on yesterday's video on Vincent van Gogh. I got one thing wrong. He shot himself in the chest, not the head. My apologies for that. So, I'm doing another one today. The goddess, Marilyn. Marilyn Monroe, Norma Jean Mortensen. Born on the 1st of June 1926, about 9:30 a.m, although I suspect it may have been about 10 minutes earlier because that would fit the circumstances of her death. Marilyn Monroe was born as a Gemini with the moon in Aquarius and Leo rising. Obviously Leo rising with the big hair and the glamour. But the main factors in her horoscope: she was born with a pretty strong opposition from the moon in Aquarius in the 7th house of relationships to Neptune in Leo in the 1st house of identity. Individuals born with Neptune in the 1st house often have difficulties, especially when young, in isolating themselves in some form of identity. Identity, individuality and ego seems to be dissolved with Neptune in the 1st house in the first 40 years of life, making it difficult for these people to get any type of firm concept of whom they are as an individual, separate from the collective. And I think in Marilyn Monroe's case, with the moon opposite Neptune, I often describe that aspect when I'm dealing with clients as being the aspect of the walking psychic sponge, where they soak up so much stuff from other people that they've got to get 10 minutes on their own every day to discharge, otherwise they end up like a fuse box with too much electricity passing to it. And the moon opposite Neptune is associated with glamour. And I use that pronunciation appropriately. Glamour comes from the Welsh, to enchant, to cast a spell, the mystique. And Marilyn Monroe was an enchanting individual. But with the moon opposite Neptune, I don't know if she ever really knew herself. This is compounded by the fact that she had the moon Neptune square Saturn in the 4th house. Her relationship with her father was non-existent, and there was considerable abuse by male figures in her childhood. So I don't think she ever really had an adequate male role model, which is perhaps why she was attracted to so many powerful men in later years as she aged. She was also born with Jupiter in the 7th house of relationships opposite the asteroid Ceres, the asteroid of the mother, in the 1st house, really strongly. And her relationship with her mother was pretty disastrous. Her mother was in and out of institutions and never really was an adequate female role model. So I believe that Marilyn Monroe grew up without any type of adequate male or female role model imagery. The sun in her chart is sextile the ascendant, but that's the only aspect it makes. It's in the 10th house of public image and career. But I don't think she was that strong an individual. And perhaps this is further demonstrated by the fact that she had Venus conjunct Chiron. Venus at the very end of Aries, Chiron at the very start of Taurus, close to the midheaven, not on it, but very close to it. And people with Venus conjunct Chiron, especially when young, often feel that they can never be loved, or they are unworthy or undeserving of love. They can never be loved enough. Of course, when older, they find true value in themselves and encourage others into self-love in a way that's much more positive. But it takes until normally around 40 for this to kick in. Marilyn Monroe did not hit 40. Marilyn Monroe died when she was 36. She died of an overdose. Now, there's plenty of conspiracy theories out there. The world thrives on conspiracy theories. But it seems pretty clear that she did overdose. There was a large amount of barbiturate poisoning going on. She did take 4 or 5 times the lethal amount. She was found in bed by a housekeeper within an hour of this happening. She may have been encouraged to take them or forced into taking them, but it's unlikely because there were other people in her house at the time this was going on. The housekeeper was there. Regardless of how she died, she died. She died between 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. on the 5th of August 1962. Now at that time, Saturn in the sky was opposite her ascendant, and Neptune in the sky was square her ascendant, and the Sun in the sky was on her ascendant. So I do think that on that actual day she was actually feeling quite depressed, and it was a combination of a growing year of Saturn and Neptune energy where she just felt more and more confused and drained by the world. And even more interesting, in her progressed horoscope at the time of her birth, at the time of her death, the progressed Sun and progressed Pluto were exactly conjunct. So this to me is a clear sign of someone who was in a state of psychological stress, under duress. There may have been an element of malfeasance here, but she was certainly going through a period of self-loathing with the progressed Sun conjunct Pluto, the progressed Sun square progressed Mars. It's all there in her chart. And I think it's a tragic story. She was an icon for many. And with that moon opposite Neptune in her chart, and the little effeminate voice and the beauty, and she represented the best and the worst of the positive glamour as well as the more insalubrious side of her lifestyle with the drugs and pornography. Vastly misunderstood, never really allowed to reach her full potential, and I think, to be honest, never really shown any true kindness. And that's all she wanted. All she wanted was someone to put their arm around her and say, I will look after you. She never had it, not ever. Goodbye, normal Jean. Thank you for what you did. You lived your life like a candle in the wind. Catch you later, world. Bye.